I am sitting in my empty apartment right now, staring at an old wedding ring on the table in front of me. 7 years ago, I married Sarah in what I thought was the happiest moment of my life. We were young in love and ready to build a future together. I served in the military, which meant long deployments away from home, but I always trusted that what we had was strong enough to survive the distance. I trusted my family too, especially my older brother Jake. I never imagined that the two people I trusted most would destroy everything while I was defending our country thousands of miles away. Before I share what happened next, I want to know, where are you watching this from? Drop your location in the comments below. If you have ever felt betrayed by someone you loved, hit that like button. And subscribe, because this story has a twist you will not see coming. What I discovered when I returned home was not just infidelity, it was a betrayal so deep it involved my own blood. But here is the thing, I am not the same man anymore. Let me take you back to where it all started. Sarah and I met during our sophomore year at the University of Texas. We were both 20 years old, studying different majors, but crossing paths at a campus coffee shop where she worked part-time shifts between classes. I remember the first time I saw her, she had this genuine smile that made everyone around her feel comfortable. We came from similar backgrounds. Both our families had military history. Her father served in the Navy, and my dad was a Marine before retiring. That shared understanding of military life drew us together from the start. We dated for 3 years before I proposed. During that time, I joined the Marines after graduation, and Sarah became a registered nurse at a hospital in San Antonio. The proposal happened on a beach in Galveston during a weekend getaway. She said yes without hesitation, tears streaming down her face. 6 months later, we got married in a small ceremony with close family and friends. It felt perfect. We bought a modest two-bedroom house in San Antonio, close to where Sarah worked. I was stationed at a nearby base, which meant I could come home regularly between training cycles. My older brother Jake was always part of our lives. He was 30 years old, 2 years older than me, and worked in commercial real estate. Jake never settled down with anyone long-term, which my parents often worried about. He lived about 15 minutes from our house and would drop by occasionally for dinner or to watch football games. When I got deployed for the first time, Jake promised he would check on Sarah whenever she needed help with anything around the house. I appreciated that. Family looking out for family, that is what I believed in. In 2019, I received orders for a 9-month deployment to Afghanistan. Leaving Sarah was the hardest thing I had ever done. At the airport, she cried in my arms and promised she would be waiting when I got back. I told her I loved her and that we would video call as often as possible. Jake was there too, giving me a firm handshake and telling me not to worry about anything back home. He said he would make sure Sarah was never alone if she needed company or help with repairs. The first 4 months went smoothly. Sarah and I talked almost every day through video calls despite the time difference. She would tell me about her shifts at the hospital, the difficult patients, the rewarding moments when someone recovered. I shared what I could about my work, though much of it was classified. Jake appeared in the background during a few calls, waving hello and asking how I was holding up. Everything seemed normal. Everything seemed fine. Then things started changing around the 5th month. Sarah began taking longer to answer my calls. When we did talk, her responses felt shorter, less engaged. She said work was overwhelming and she was picking up extra shifts to save money. I understood nursing is demanding, and I did not want to add pressure. One night, I called at 2 a.m. Texas time, hoping to catch her before she left for an early shift. She did not answer. When I tried again in the morning, she apologized and said she had been sleeping deeply and did not hear the phone. Small details started bothering me. During one video call, I noticed Sarah looking away from the camera frequently, like her attention was somewhere else. Another time, I saw a men's jacket hanging on a chair behind her that I did not recognize. When I asked about it, she explained it was Jake's. He had come over to help fix a leaking pipe under the kitchen sink and left it by accident. That made sense. Jake was handy with repairs, and I was grateful he was helping out. But then Jake started appearing more often in Sarah's stories. She would mention him casually. Jake drove me to work today because my car would not start. Jake helped me move the heavy boxes in the garage. Jake brought over dinner last night because I was too tired to cook. Each mention felt innocent on its own, but together they formed a pattern that made my stomach turn. I told myself I was being paranoid. They were family. Jake was doing what I asked him to do, looking after my wife while I was gone. I pushed the doubts down and focused on my mission, trusting that the people I loved most would never hurt me. In the 8th month of my deployment, I received unexpected news. Our unit completed its objectives ahead of schedule, and we were being sent home 3 weeks early. I was thrilled. I immediately thought about surprising Sarah. I decided not to tell her I was coming back early. I wanted to see the look on her face when I walked through the door. The journey home felt endless. I flew from Kabul to Dallas, then rented a car and drove the 4 hours to San Antonio. My heart pounded with excitement the entire drive. I imagined holding Sarah again, sleeping in our own bed, finally being home after months of living in a war zone. It was a November afternoon when I pulled into our driveway. The house looked exactly as I remembered it. The front yard needed mowing, but everything else seemed peaceful and quiet. I grabbed my duffel bag from the trunk and walked to the front door using my key to let myself in. The house was silent. No television sounds, no music, nothing. I set my bag down in the entryway and called out Sarah's name. No response. I figured maybe she was taking a nap or in the shower. I walked through the living room, noticing everything looked tidy and normal. Then I climbed the stairs toward our bedroom. The door was slightly open. I pushed it wider and froze. Sarah was in our bed with Jake. Time stopped. Everything around me went silent except for a ringing in my ears. I could not breathe. I could not think. Sarah gasped and pulled the blanket up to cover herself, her face draining of all color. Jake jumped up, unable to meet my eyes. I just stood there staring at them, unable to process what I was seeing. These were the two people I trusted more than anyone in the world. Sarah's voice broke the silence. Tommy, I did not know you were... Her words trailed off. I felt something cold settle in my chest. I forced myself to speak, my voice coming out flat and emotionless. How long? Jake hung his head, his hands shaking. Brother, I am sorry. I cut him off. Do not call me that. How long? Sarah started crying, tears streaming down her face. 4 months? I am so sorry. I did not mean for this to... 4 months. While I was in Afghanistan, sleeping in a tent, dodging mortar fire, worrying about staying alive so I could come home to her, they were together for 4 months. Images flashed through my mind. Sarah promising to wait for me at the airport, Jake shaking my hand and telling me he would take care of things. My parents always saying how lucky I was to have such a good brother. All of it was a lie. The rage, the pain, the confusion, it all mixed together into something I could not name. But I did not yell. I did not break anything. I just looked at both of them for what felt like an eternity, then said one sentence. I want you both out of this house in 1 hour. Then I turned and walked back downstairs. I sat in my car in the driveway, hands gripping the steering wheel so hard, my knuckles turned white. I could not cry, I could not scream, I just felt numb. An hour later, Jake and Sarah came out carrying bags. Sarah walked over to my car window and knocked softly. I rolled it down. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. "Tommy, please listen. I am pregnant." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What?" My voice barely came out as a whisper. She looked down. 10 weeks? It is Jake's baby? I was going to tell you when you came back." The world collapsed around me. Not only had they betrayed me, but they created a life together, a child. Physical evidence of everything I had lost. I felt sick. I wanted to throw up. Instead, I just stared straight ahead and said, "Leave, now." Sarah sobbed, but Jake put his hand on her shoulder and led her to his car. I watched them drive away, and then I sat alone outside the house that used to be my home, wondering how my life had become this nightmare. I did not sleep that night. I sat in the living room watching the sun come up, trying to process everything. When morning came, my phone started ringing nonstop. Jake had called our parents and told them what happened. The first call was from my mother, Linda. Her voice was shaking. "Tommy, sweetheart, I just heard. I am so shocked. I cannot believe this happened." I could barely respond. "Mom, I need some time," she continued. "Jake is devastated. He says it just happened. They did not mean to hurt you." Hearing her defend them made anger flare up in my chest. They did not mean to. For 4 months. My father Bob called next. His tone was stern, the way it always was when he thought someone needed to be reasonable. "Son, what happened is terrible, but Jake is still your brother. Sarah is carrying a child, your nephew or niece. This family needs to stay together." I closed my eyes. "Dad, I cannot talk about this right now." He pushed harder. "We need to meet. All of us. We need to figure this out." I hung up without responding. Over the next week, the calls and messages did not stop. My mother texted constantly, "Please come over for dinner. We need to talk as a family." My father sent messages too. "You cannot avoid this forever. Think about the baby." Even Jake tried reaching out. "Brother, I know you hate me. I hate myself too. But please let us talk." Sarah called from a different number. "Tommy, I understand if you never forgive me, but I need to tell you something important. Please call me back." I ignored them all. I needed space to process my emotions, so I drove to the San Antonio River and walked for hours. I met up with Marcus, a friend from my unit who was on leave. We sat at a bar, and I told him everything. Marcus shook his head. "Man, you do not owe them anything. Not after what they did." His words gave me some clarity. I was not crazy for feeling betrayed. I was not overreacting. What they did was unforgivable, and I had every right to protect myself. One evening, my parents showed up at my house unannounced. I opened the door and saw them standing there looking exhausted. My mother spoke first. "Tommy, please let us in. We drove all the way here." I stepped aside and they came into the living room. My father sat down heavily on the couch. "Son, I know you are hurt, but Jake called me yesterday. Sarah had a miscarriage." I felt nothing, not sadness, not relief, just emptiness. My mother reached for my hand. "She is devastated. Jake is destroyed. They both need support, and they need your forgiveness." That word, forgiveness, made something snap inside me. My mother continued, "They made a mistake, a terrible mistake, but they are family. Family forgives." My father nodded. "Your mother and I did not raise quitters. We work through problems. That is what we do." I stood up, unable to sit still anymore. A mistake? They had an affair for 4 months while I was in Afghanistan risking my life? My mother started crying. I know, honey, I know. But holding on to anger will only hurt you. My father added, think about Sarah. She lost the baby. She is suffering too. I looked at him directly. She should have thought about consequences before sleeping with my brother. But my parents would not let it go. They called every single day. They organized a family meeting and demanded I attend. Jake sent a handwritten letter apologizing, explaining how guilty he felt. Sarah even showed up at the hospital where I was getting some medical checks done, but I walked past her without acknowledging her presence. I felt like my family was betraying me all over again. They did not care about my pain. They just wanted everything to go back to normal so they could pretend nothing happened. I started realizing something I should have seen years ago. My parents always protected Jake. As the older son, he got away with more, and I, the younger brother, was always expected to be understanding and forgiving. A month passed. Thanksgiving was approaching, and my parents called to tell me they were hosting dinner. We expect you here. Jake and Sarah will be there too. It is time to move forward. That was the moment I decided I had enough. I called a lawyer and started divorce proceedings with Sarah. Then I sat down and wrote a long email to my parents and every member of our extended family. In the email, I explained exactly what happened. I laid out the timeline, the lies, the betrayal. Then I wrote, forgiveness is not the same as reconciliation. I may forgive them someday for my own peace, but I will not pretend this family is whole. I made it clear that I would not attend any family events where Jake or Sarah were present. I ended with, I love you, Mom and Dad, but I need you to respect my decision. I am not the one who broke this family, they did. I hit send. On Thanksgiving Day, I did not go to my parents' house. Instead, I flew to Colorado and went hiking in the mountains with Marcus and a few other veterans. My parents called furious. How could you skip Thanksgiving? Jake and Sarah came all this way. I stayed calm. I told you I would not come if they were there. You chose to invite them. That is your choice, and this is mine. My mother cried. You are tearing this family apart. I took a deep breath. No, Mom. Jake tore it apart when he slept with my wife. I am just refusing to pretend it did not happen. The following week, I made an even bigger decision. I put the house up for sale. I could not live there anymore. Every room held memories that now felt poisoned. I found a small apartment in Austin, about 2 hours away from San Antonio. Then I requested a transfer to a unit at Fort Hood. When I told my parents I was moving, they were shocked. My father called immediately. You are moving away because of this, I corrected him. I am not leaving because of them. I am leaving for me. I need distance. I need to rebuild my life somewhere that does not remind me of what I lost. Jake called too, his voice desperate. Please do not leave because of me. I kept my response short. I am doing what is best for me. Goodbye, Jake. 1 month later, I moved to Austin. 6 months after moving to Austin, I started feeling like I could breathe again. I found a studio apartment with a view of Lady Bird Lake. It was small but comfortable, and it was mine. Work at Fort Hood kept me busy, which helped. I joined a running club specifically for veterans, and the physical activity gave me an outlet for all the emotions I had been carrying. But the most important decision I made was starting therapy. I found a counselor named Dr. Patterson, who specialized in working with military personnel dealing with trauma. The first few months were rough. I had nightmares almost every night, reliving the moment I walked into that bedroom seeing Sarah and Jake together. I would wake up drenched in sweat, my heart racing. Dr. Patterson taught me breathing techniques and helped me understand that what I was experiencing was normal. You cannot control what they did, she said during one session, but you can control how you move forward. Those words stuck with me. Through therapy and the Veteran Running Club, I met other people who had been through their own betrayals and losses. A guy named David became a close friend. He told me his ex-wife had cheated on him too, and it took 3 years before he felt human again. But I did, he said, and you will too. Hearing that from someone who understood made a huge difference. Slowly, I started laughing again. I volunteered at a shelter for homeless veterans on weekends. Helping others gave me purpose beyond my own pain. I still kept in contact with my parents, but I set clear boundaries. I called them once a week for brief conversations about their health and general updates. I did not visit if Jake was going to be there. I did not attend family events where he and Sarah were present. Apparently, they were still together and trying to make their relationship work officially. About a year after I moved, my mother called with news. Tommy, Jake, and Sarah are getting married next month. Will you not come to the wedding for us? I felt surprisingly calm. Mom, I love you, but no. I wish them well, but I will not be there, she sighed. You are so stubborn. I smiled slightly. No, Mom, I am just respecting myself. Something shifted after that conversation. A few weeks later, my father called. His voice was different, quieter, more thoughtful. Son, your mother and we did not handle this right. We pushed too hard. We see that now. I was surprised. I appreciate you saying that, Dad. He continued, I am proud of you for standing up for yourself. That takes real strength. It was the first time in over a year that I felt like my parents actually heard me. They were not asking me to forgive and forget anymore. They were finally respecting my choice. 2 years after everything fell apart, I found myself sitting by the lake one evening watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink. I thought about everything that had happened. I used to think family meant unconditional loyalty, that blood was thicker than anything else. But Sarah and Jake taught me that betrayal can come from anywhere, even from the people you would die for. My parents taught me that sometimes love looks like pressure, like pushing someone to do what makes everyone else comfortable. But real love respects boundaries. And I taught myself something important. Walking away is not weakness. It is self-preservation. Around that time, I met someone new. Her name was Grace, and she was a nurse like Sarah had been. But that was where the similarities ended. We met at a charity event for wounded veterans. She had a quiet confidence and did not push me to talk about my past until I was ready. We started having coffee together, then dinner, then longer conversations that stretched into the night. I was not rushing into anything. I knew it would take time to trust again. But for the first time in 2 years, I felt something I thought I had lost forever: hope. Some people will tell you that forgiveness means going back to how things were. But I have learned that forgiveness can also mean letting go and moving forward without them. I do not know if I will ever fully reconcile with Jake. Maybe someday, maybe never. But I do know this: I am not the same man who walked into that bedroom 2 years ago. I am stronger, I am wiser, and I am finally at peace. Because the greatest revenge is not anger or bitterness. It is living well on your own terms. So let me ask you, have you ever had to walk away from someone you loved to protect yourself? How did you find the strength to move forward? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, smash that like button and subscribe to this channel for more real-life stories about overcoming betrayal and finding peace. Share this video with someone who might need to hear that it is okay to choose yourself. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope wherever you are in your own journey, you find the courage to do what is right for you. Stay strong, and remember you deserve respect, loyalty, and genuine love. Take care.